Well, hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Rachel. Good evening, Karen. I am so excited tonight because once again, we're trying something new um, with our Tuesday Together Talk live stream. I told you all before I was having some challenges uh, with the Facebook. So I decided to just start streaming to YouTube. I want you all to encourage folks to like and subscribe our YouTube channel so they can be a part of our conversation. But even before we get to that, good evening. I'm Reverend Rebecca Burrow. I am the founder and CEO of Building Reconciliation, Inclusion, Diversity, and Gender Equity. And you have landed at Tuesday Together Talk. I am excited this evening for our discussion. We are going to spend our most of our evening talking about this upcoming election. I have some special guests in my virtual studio. I'm so excited for these two folks. One you've known before, Sarah Gilbert. We talked about her book several months ago. And then I got another special guest this evening, my covenant daughter, Sharon Burrow Anderson. So we're just going to sit back and engage in this conversation. I want you all to comment. I want to get into the meat of this discussion because the reality is we have an election that's right up on us. And I don't know about you, but I have some major concerns about what is occurring in our country. Of course, we've been dealing with the divisiveness for some time now. However, what we also are dealing with is the threat to our democracy. I don't want to say perceived threat because the reality is there is a threat to our democracy. Anytime you have folks saying that they will only believe the election is real or the election was all the election results are accurate, if they win, then that's a problem. So we need to get into some of that, just because perhaps there is reason that folks don't believe the results of the election or and maybe there's some legitimate reason that some folks don't believe the results of the election. However, some of these, I guess, concerns are really based on inaccurate or not even factual information. So I'm getting ready to bring Sarah and Sharon into our studio. Let's get started. If you want to, make sure you tap some of your friends and tell them to come join this conversation. All right, here we go. Sarah Gilbert, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for
And Sharon Burrow Anderson, thank you for joining us this evening. Now, I'm going to change this a little bit so that's too much of me.
having us.
No, it's fine.
Okay. So before we get started, since Sharon, this is your first time visiting with us here on Tuesday Together Talk, um, tell us a little bit of something about yourself.
Okay. Catch me off guard. My name is Sharon Burrow Anderson. As you can see, we share a name. So we share my father, who is since passed. It's been about a year, but we share a special bond over him and our love of his quirkiness, his quirky intellectual self. Um, I am currently in Pennsylvania. I am an attorney. I work for a telehealth company that is based out of Sweden, doing their legal and compliance work. Um, what else? Um, besides what I do, I have one daughter. She is 14. Um, I'm not sure what else you want to know. There's
And,
so much. I don't want to tell too much because that'll bore
and you
people.
have two dogs.
I have two fur babies who are both at my feet right now. They could be somewhere else, but they're right on top of me. So I hope they behave during this meeting. Um, yeah.
Mm.
That's me. I'm involved in a lot of things, church, sorority activities, nonprofit work, various volunteer activities. So those are some of the things that are important to me.
Yes. She's a busy woman, y'all. She's a busy woman, but not just busy to for the sake of being busy. She is busy doing very important work, whether it's mentoring, whether it's serving, like she said, in nonprofits and on boards and things. She's a very busy woman, and I am very proud of her and proud to call her my covenant daughter. Okay, Miss Sarah.
Hello. Hello, my name is Sarah Gilbert. As you know, I'm author of the book titled 818 Romans. The pain you're going through can't compare to the joy that's coming.
Mm.
I'm a mother and a sister and an auntie and all that good stuff. But most of my relatives are in Ohio. So my daughter lives here in Tampa. And so that's, I guess, about I'm retired. Been retired since 2013. So
Mm.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. 2013 retired. Okay. Well, listen, you all. This is going to be an important conversation. So I want you all to get ready to chime in. The first question I want us to deal with tonight is, as you're thinking about voting, what issues matter to you? I'm hearing that, abortion, of course, is really on the ballot in a way. It's already been overturned, Roe v. Wade. However, for me, it's not just abortion, it's bodily autonomy. It's my right to have say over my body. So it's not just about abortion. I wish they would dig deeper into that, not just say abortion, because bodily autonomy goes into my human rights, my rights as a woman to say what I want to happen to my body. That's one of the issues that we've talked about. We're talking about gun violence. We're talking about crime. We're talking about democracy. Oh, there's so many issues that people
Yes.
are talking about. So I want to know, Sarah, I'll start with you. What issue is on the ballot for you? What is an issue that matters most to you? And you may have more than one, but what at the top of your head is most important?
Right now, I'm thinking the most important is the abortion issue. I think there's a lot of confusion in that. It's such a touchy situation because you're talking about a woman and her body and telling her basically the way I see it. If you're saying she cannot abort a child that she's carrying in her body that may be making her ill or may even cause her death, then and she has that no right or no say so in that, I just think it's just wrong. And I also think it borders on too many lines because now you're no longer not only telling a woman what she can do with her own body, but now you're judging because you're saying a lot of the rhetoric is about, well, it's a sin, but then you want to separate church from the government,
Mhm.
issues, but now you're mending them right back together because
Mm,
that is to me like, if it's a sin between you and God,
mhm.
not you and the country.
Yeah.
So I've kind of got a lot of issues with it.
Wow, wow. Well, Sarah, look, you just said something right there. You said it's a sin between you and God and not you and the country. Well, I think that's a bumper sticker right there. um and I can appreciate that because realistically, if we think about it, there are sins committed all the time, right?
Right.
The reality is, if people were really concerned about it being a sin, then we wouldn't have had 45 in the White House, right? Because
Okay.
he was blatant about his sins. He made, we wasn't ashamed of them.
Mhm.
Uh, we have Herschel Walker now in Atlanta, Georgia. He's, he's clear about his sin, and he's even said that, God forgives his sins. So how is it then that we determine that one sin is greater than another? I don't think so. But we know that's how the hypocrisy happens in our country on a daily basis. Sharon Burrow Anderson. I almost went straight to Anderson, but I just couldn't. What issues matter to you?
So there are many, but I'm going to jump on this one because that's where we started, and I have some follow-up to it. And I really like what you said about, if you believe that it is a sin, then it's a sin between you and God, not you and the country. Because you cannot legislate morality. You just can't do it. You can make laws to try to make people fall in line with what you view as moral, but you're not really doing anything other than creating punishment. Because true morality is going to come from within that person, because they've made a choice and they've made a decision that this is what they believe. So now I'm going to live my life in line with that, not because the law says I can't do this and I can't do that. And going along with what you said, Rebecca, I don't even, when it comes to this particular topic, I don't even want to get into whether or not you think it's right or wrong, whether or not you think it's a sin or not. What I'm more concerned with is those who are pushing this abortion is wrong, abortion is murder. And I'm not saying that it's not that. But if that's your argument, if your argument is you're trying to protect the family, you're trying to do what is the Christian thing, okay, let's make that your argument, okay? And if that's true, then now tell me, what are your next steps? What systems are you going to put into place so that if now this woman has to carry this child, and let's say she doesn't have the financial means to care for it, what systems are you going to put in place to make it so that she can care for that child? What systems are you going to put in place to make sure that that child can get a proper education, can get proper medical attention, all those things? Because it's about the family, right? You're trying to protect the family. So the family needs money. The family needs access to certain things. So if that's your argument, then I want you to play it all the way out and tell me how you're going to make that happen. If that's your argument, then, and you're going to force a child, or, any woman who's been a victim of rape, if you're going to force her to carry that child to term, what systems are you going to put in place to help her mentally deal with that?
Yes.
What are you going to put into place to help that child get into proper foster care or adoption where they're safe and not abused? You have to carry it all the way through. You can't just say, no, you can't do this, and now we're going to force you to deal with the repercussions of whatever happened to you. What are you going to do to support them in that decision that you made for them, essentially? And also, in the case of a woman who may, end up dying because she can't carry that, what are you going to do for the family that she leaves behind? For the income that's going to be lost from that family? What are you going to do to support her children, her husband that are left behind? It's not just a blanket rule that you can put out there. But the bottom line is, I don't think most people who are making that argument are making it because they care about families. They're doing it to get votes because it's a red light, red flag thing that you can put out. And now all of a sudden, if you're a Christian, then you have to get on this train. But you're not thinking through, and you're not really thinking about the person who's saying, I'm anti-abortion, I'm pro-life, blah, blah, blah. What they're really doing is just trying to get you on board. You have to think it through.
Well said, Sarah and Sharon. I appreciate so much of what you were saying, because what I find frustrating, and Sharon, you really explained this well. I find frustrating the fact that people are concerned more about the womb. That's where it stops, the womb.
Exactly.
And then once life comes into this world, the concern ceases to exist. So, for example, you can go to some of the abortion clinics around the country, and you'll see people out protesting with signs and doing all these things. And then a young lady has a baby, how many of those same people are there at that bedside saying, hey, here's an apartment for you to live in now. Here's a job. Here's childcare. Here's food, sufficient food, good food, nourishing food. Here is health coverage. We all of these things that our country is currently, well, I won't say the country, but most Republicans are fighting against those very things I mentioned, whether it was healthcare, Obamacare, whether it's the SNAP program and that being them trying to defund that, whether it's, housing. We know what the issue is with housing in our country. It's currently, it is more than a mess. It's a lot of people are struggling right now to even find an affordable place to live because of the inflation, but not just because of the inflation, but because of the investors and things that are going in and buying up all of these properties and communities and then trying to charge 3 and 4 times the rate. They're putting people out there, evicting them, and then leaving them out nowhere. And all of these things, if you want to talk about pro-life, these are the things, these are the essentials to ensure that people have life, that people have life more abundantly, that people are able to live daily. So that's my concern with the hypocrisy, is that we never take that conversation further into what will we do, since you want this woman to have a baby, even if it's a mother that what didn't work or anything, but she was home with her children. Now there's a healthcare crisis. Now this lady says, I need to make this decision because my doctor says that this is not a viable pregnancy. So she decides she wants to abort. Now, no, the country or the state says, no, you can't do that. It may not take money from the home, but it still takes her presence from the home. It takes that nurturing from the home. So when people want to talk about pro-life, I think that we need to really start having a real conversation about what life really means. What does it mean to have life? You are concerned about an embryo. You're concerned about an egg, a zygote. You're concerned about those things, but you're not concerned about life that's already in front of your face. So those are very important things. Thank you all so much. Karen said
one more thing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just don't want to lose my train of thought. But there's another piece to this conversation also. Is which population are we trying to increase? Like, what is this really about?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it has anything to do with family. I don't think it has anything to do with morality.
Yes.
I think it's about the population, and the color of the population is starting to look a little different than some people would like it to look.
Yeah.
So how do we go about evening the balance there?
Yeah.
We stop white women from aborting their babies.
Yeah.
It's not really about us non-white people, Black and brown. It's more about them. Yeah. Because they need, again, it's about power. It's about the assumption, and unfortunately, because in this country we have a very racist history, the assumption that the more white people that you have, the more white people that you have who will vote for you. Yeah. And I really think that is more of the core of what this conversation is about. It's not about family. It's not about morality. It's about power and the loss of power and the attempt to regain power.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for that. Sarah, you have any additional thoughts before we move on to the next question?
No, I totally agree with what she just said. It's about the population and the white women. I think they're more concerned about white women aborting babies than they are about the Black people aborting.
Yeah. And then I could take it even further into our health crisis when it comes to Black infant mortality and maternal
Mhm.
health. We already know that our babies die more often at birth, and our mothers die more often at birth than white women, and so that's an issue in itself. So those are things that we really need to start, I think, bringing into this conversation when we talk about bodily autonomy. I hope that we don't leave it at abortion. I hope that we really dig into the depths of this multifaceted uh, issue that now is really impacting our country, whether it's the 10-year-old little girl that was raped and then had to go from one state to another just to terminate that pregnancy. Other women that are now sharing their stories that are, in their doctor offices and finding out that those pregnancies or would not be conducive for seeing through. So, and then having to travel, whether the baby has already demised. It's so many layers to this. And I hope that we don't just think of it as abortion, but think of it as how it impacts a woman's life, her children that are already here, if she has those children, her extended family, her living situation, all of those things as we go forward. So, Sharon, I want to throw this next question at you because Pennsylvania is really got a lot of conversation and energy uh, around it right now. And matter of fact, I think the debate is tonight between Fetterman and I want to call him Oz, but what's his real name?
Minute
Uh,
Okay.
Met
Okay.
Hats or something.
Okay. All right. So what are you hearing in your circle around your area? And maybe you could even give us a glimpse of how, we think big city a lot of times because we think only of Philadelphia, right? Maybe
Right.
you can give us a glimpse of what life is kind of, what it's like in your area.
Oh, somebody's gonna get mad at me when I say this. So I'm not a native Pennsylvanian. I grew up in Indiana for most of my life, but I've lived various places. But the state of Pennsylvania is you have Pittsburgh on one end, you have Philadelphia on the other end, and everything in between is rural. You may as well be in Alabama as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
But again, I'm not a native Pennsylvanian, so my view of things could be a little skewed, I'm sure. But I'm saying that to say that there are two urban areas, and when I say that, I mean more of a mixed population. You'll see more brown people, people of different ethnicities, and that's on either side of the state, not so much in the middle. So definitely, and look, when Trump was in office, everything didn't go south because of him.
Mhm.
The people that came out of the woodwork were always there.
Mhm.
They just felt emboldened because he was in the White House. So it was nothing, it's not like that behavior and those thought processes weren't there. They were always there. It's just that
Mhm.
now they had somebody in the office who represented what they believed, so they felt free to come out. So, and I was telling you earlier, thank you for doing that because now I see who my neighbors are.
Yeah.
And when we would leave the city and go different places, and all of a sudden you start seeing the Trump signs on the billboards, the Trump signs in the yards and stuff like that. Now I know where I am. I know what I'm dealing with. Same thing with the blue flags, the blue and black in support of the police. People are, thereabouts. Even in, I'm not in Philadelphia. I'm right outside, maybe 20 minutes outside of Philadelphia. But we definitely have a lot of that around here. And it's disconcerting to see it, especially during election time. But at the same time, I had to remind myself, these people always lived here.
Mhm.
I just didn't know what was going on in their house until they brought it and put it on the lawn.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
back to the candidates and their different positions. It's a lot of the same stuff. Oz and Mastriano, who is the Republican up for governor, his ad about abortion is, I can't remember his exact language, but it was to the effect that of saying a woman's right to have control over her body is basically nonsense.
Mhm.
Wow, really? Okay. So, I would just like to see, if that's the way it's going to be, let's start making some laws that, that men can't say no to. You have a certain number of kids and you're not married to the mother. Oh, immediate vasectomy.
Nick Cannon.
Yeah. You're not taking care of them. You're not in the house with them, since it's all about family and we want Christian values. Then vasectomy for you. No
Mhm.
choice, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because if we're going to give the state control over people's bodies, it should go both ways. Why is it
That's
only
right.
the woman's body who's being we're trying to govern? So it's that conversation. It's statements like secure the border. We know what that means. Code
Okay.
word: no more brown people.
Mhm.
That's what secure the border means.
Mhm.
The other code word is tough on crime. What's that about? That's
Mhm.
about brown people. Even though we know it's not mostly us who are committing the crimes, it's just our faces that go on the news.
Mhm.
That's right.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
those are the code words that they throw out there that they're hiding behind, like Democrats, if that's what you are, because I know there are other parties, but that's
Yeah.
usually what we're going with. Like, other people don't care about being safe.
Right.
You really think that Black and brown people don't fear people with guns? They don't fear being robbed? We're all human. We all have those concerns.
Yeah.
But that's not how that's not the messaging
Yes.
out there. So,
Yeah.
politics is just not, it's not something I like, because it's all a lot of, it's just words people put out there.
Yeah.
Keywords that they get to trigger people, to trigger their emotions, to get people on board, but nobody's ever really talking about what are you going to do
Yes.
to put something in place
Yes.
that's going to support all these things that you're spitting out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Support the police, okay, fine. But what does that also mean? I have to support police who are doing the wrong thing, because criminal behavior is criminal behavior, regardless of what you're wearing at the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
So for you to try to argue somebody down who's trying to hold a policeman accountable, who's done something wrong in the line of duty,
Yeah.
that's not rational.
Mhm.
That's gang mentality, really,
Right.
because you're not looking at the behavior. If a regular citizen did this, they'd be under arrest.
Yeah. Yep.
But you're making excuses because that person wears the same colors as you. That's
Yeah.
gang mentality.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, thank you for letting us know what is happening there in your state. There's so much. You said a lot, and all of it was very important. I think what always concerns me is that now we aren't really electing politicians. We are electing personalities. We're
Mhm.
electing people that are in the same cult or tribe
Mhm.
that we're in. A person don't have to have any kind of skill set. And it's so concerning to me, because I don't know if people realize at some point, these are the folks that will be making decisions that will impact your everyday life. I mean, think about it. Are these the folks that you want to determine uh, whether we go to war or not? Are these the folks that you want to determine, uh, well, bodily autonomy? Are these the folks you want to determine whether you're going to have Social Security when you get of that retirement age? most of these folks don't even understand politics. They don't understand how politics are even shaped, and how some of them would have never even thought about writing a bill. They don't even understand what it means to sponsor a bill. They don't understand legislation. None of these things. They have big megaphones and they talk about all of the things that is important to them and their group without any skill for putting together a piece of policy or anything that is for the betterment of the country. Might be okay for their little groups, but most of them don't even understand it. Sarah, tell us what's going on over in Pinellas County, over there in Clearwater area.
Lord, you don't even want to know.
Because we're in Florida, Lord have mercy.
Florida is gone buck wild crazy with the current governor.
Yes.
That man is a lunatic.
Yes.
He's a white supremacist, I believe. And I'm like, that's what the whole thing is about. They want to get this white supremacy thing going on. They don't really care about black people. I mean, you got young black people getting stopped for traffic tickets and getting shot over 60 times. Really? What kind of justice is that? You don't even know why basically you stopped the guy. It's been two right here. Well, they were in Ohio. One was in Ohio, one was somewhere else. One got shot 46 times, just a hell of a gunfire by policemen. And I just can't wrap my head around. I don't understand that. I don't understand how that could go under the cover. I mean, just get wiped away. Oh well, yeah. It's just mind-boggling to me. But now,
and you said that was in those shootings, Sarah, weren't in Pinellas County though,
they
right?
were not in Pinellas County,
Okay.
but they'd be headed here if certain people get in office.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
They will be around. So yeah, because if you got a governor that's sticking his nose, I'm saying it's white supremacy and racism all in this election, because you got this man that's going to go all the way to Texas to load a bunch of people on a bus and send them close to the homes where the black vice president Kamala Harris lives, and unload them and promise them all of these lies so they got jobs and homes and all this stuff. You're not even in your state. Those refugees were not even here in Florida. You go all the way to Texas and put them on planes and fly them to both places where she lived in Maryland, Virginia, wherever she lived, and what's that other place? I can't think of the name right now. But you know what I'm talking about. And he's just posturing himself to a bigger position. I think he's still planning on trying to run for president, so he probably don't even care if he don't get the governor vote. Because he's probably planning on running for
he wants that vote. He wants that vote.
Yeah, he just wants it.
Yeah.
But
Sarah, I think that what's troubling me a lot here in Florida, of course, is I think it was 2018, was it? When did we vote to have ex-felons voters' rights restored? Was that 2018? I think it was. I can't remember. The pandemic has really maybe
right. Yeah,
okay.
I think it was 2018.
So they had their rights restored, and then DeSantis and the state of Florida, they decided that, which is Republican led, they decided that they would put all of these different hurdles in place that the ex-felons would have to first jump over, and then they start removing certain groups, saying no, they can't be eligible. And so in doing that, I don't know if you all that are listening are aware of it, but I believe it was 20 persons that were arrested for illegally voting in the 2020 election. Now, of course, since that election, DeSantis, he got on television talking about how secure Florida elections were. You know, other states should model after us. And
Yeah.
then turned around and start spending a whole bunch of money on getting this new election police task force thing going, in addition to all of the redistricting that he did, which I
Yeah.
still think is illegal, although, you know, of course, trying to point out how unconstitutional it is, Florida Constitution. It doesn't matter because they have decided that they would move with it anyway. And so there's all these different things he's doing. And on top of that, use the hurricane to his advantage, because now Lee County and the other county down that's predominantly Republican, he has decided now that he would, you know, alleviate any challenges and burdens they might have to vote. And that means that these folks will get to vote without identification, or even without having their address, you know, and all of this, because it's going to be such a challenge for them. Now, I'm not suggesting it's not. There are some people down in those counties that have been misplaced, displaced, and a whole bunch of other things. The problem is that he is only allowing
Certain people.
yes, for those Republican counties.
Exactly.
So now you don't have to prove who you are to vote in those counties. You could be in another state, and because you know, people have been displaced, so they might be in another state and they don't have to prove who they are, and they can just vote. Now, if I'm wrong about it, somebody please correct me, but that's the way I've read what he is now doing. And of course, we know that had that, you know, Hillsborough County, you know, he would have never done such a thing for Hillsborough County. So we have all of those things that that we are fighting against. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's so important that people vote. We have to vote, because we have a mountain that we're climbing in order to win this election. We can still win, even with all of the shenanigans.
Yes.
And the odds that are stacked against us. We can still win. However, we have to vote. And that takes me to my next question. Sarah, I want to start with you. And I know that you and I, we attend the same church. And I no longer live in Pinellas County, but I know that you get around Pinellas County and a few other places. Tell me, how enthusiastic are people about this election? And first, I want you to tell me how enthusiastic you are about it. Then I want you to tell me what you're, you know, hearing from maybe some of your peers, your network, your groups. Are you enthusiastic about the election?
I am very enthusiastic about it. I totally believe in voting, regardless of whether I'm enthusiastic or not. I'm going to vote. It's a right that my people suffered, died, and were killed over. For me to be able to have that privilege to vote and put my conscience on the table. And I will do it for the rest of my life. If I have to be in a wheelchair, that's why I think they're trying to get rid of the mail-in voting, so they can try to make people suffer. You see all these laws they're trying to make. You can't give somebody water, they standing in line to vote for 2-3 hours in the hot sun, and you go to give them some water, you go to jail. What kind of mess is that?
Yeah.
What kind of inhumane rhetoric? You know they're trying to keep us from voting because they have an agenda, and they'll do anything to get their agenda on the table. And it's not going to happen because we're going to vote.
Yeah.
I'm encouraging everybody to vote. I'll come pick you up and give you a ride if you can't vote.
Yeah.
I will get you to those polls, and I will stand with you, and I'll have water in my purse already, so I can just slip it to you, whatever, if it's that long. But basically, where I live, the poll lines aren't that long. You just go in, you get in and out. So, yeah, I'm very enthusiastic about voting. I always will be. Whether it's a good season or a bad season, I'm going to vote.
I do believe that St. John Primitive Baptist Church over in Clearwater, Florida, I do believe that they are doing a Souls to the Polls on November 5th or 6th. I'll need to check and make sure, but I'll make sure that I post that my to Bridges website. So, or I'm sorry, Bridges Facebook page, so you all can check that out. If you live over in Pinellas County, you can and happen to attend St. John or just happen to visit one Sunday. Service started at 9:30. Make sure that you are, you have to be registered, and it's too late now to register. But if you're registered, make sure that you vote. Sharon, what about you? And I'm sorry, Sharon, just give me a quick second. Rachelle, we're going to get to your question in a minute, okay? And please, you all that are listening and tuned in, please make sure you comment to this question. Are you enthusiastic about this election season or this election that's coming up? Sharon, are you enthusiastic?
I don't know if enthusiasm is the word. I'm committed to participating in the voting activity. Let's put it that way. I don't know that there'll ever be a candidate where I'm going to say I'm 100% in line with them, but I'm not of the mindset of nobody's going to do anything, so I'm not going to vote. Nobody's representing us, so I'm not going to vote, because not voting is a vote.
Yes.
So I'm definitely going to be engaged in the process. But, for all the people who are apathetic about voting, I completely understand that. But we also have to kind of get out of the mindset of everybody vote and now you've done your civic duty. Voting is just step one.
Yes.
There's so much more that goes on, and we really have to start thinking the long game of community involvement. If these people are going to come out and say, we want your vote, and then we come out and vote for them, we have to hold their feet to the fire throughout their whole term. Not just put them in office and say, okay, we did our part. We wash our hands, we wait a couple years, and we go through the whole process again. We really have to start staying on top of them to push them and force them to deliver what they said they were going to deliver. And also, some people, there may be some people out there who should be running for office. But if they're not participating in what's going on in the community, and they're just sitting at home and kind of throwing up their hands, then, that may be a candidate that we could get behind. But, it's, like I said, voting is just part one of it. We have to figure out, those of us who have similar views, similar concerns, we have to figure out how to join together and start voting in blocks and getting behind certain candidates to push them forward. And, that's the long game part of it. We have all these organizations, fraternities, sororities, businesses, just different groups where if we would just unite and galvanize ourselves, we can make a little more progress than what we're doing right now, because it's hard when it's just a few people out there. And I can say I'm not one of those people who's out there, because I don't like all of this messiness. To be honest, I just don't. But I still understand that if I want things to change, I can't just sit and complain. I do have to do some things. I do have to speak up. I do have to participate. I do have to be aware of what's going on. So, it takes more for us than just voting. We really have to start pushing and using our organizations, our churches, whatever, and, to increase our influence and our impact.
Yeah, my thinking is, am I enthusiastic? I'm not sure I'm enthusiastic as much as I am committed, to voting, because it's my right, privilege, and responsibility. I also realize that if folks had their way, then I wouldn't have the right to vote.
Mhm.
right? We're still waiting for the John Lewis bill, right? Aren't we still waiting for John Lewis Voting Rights Act to come to fruition?
So,
Yeah. So my concern though is this. People think it's bad now.
mhm.
Don't vote
Mm.
and help
It's
it
gonna,
get worse.
it's gonna get worse.
That's just the bottom line. If you
Mhm.
think it's bad now, then don't vote so you can help it get worse. Because that's really what's going to happen if we think that the overturning of Roe v. Wade was such a big deal. Let's not think that our voter rights aren't at stake. They are.
Mhm.
They're at stake almost every election.
Mhm.
And that's why we're fighting so hard to put things in place to secure that our rights to vote. So if you think that you have no rights now, don't vote.
Mhm.
So you can help them make it worse for you, because that's
Yeah,
exactly what's going to happen.
yeah,
And so it's our right to vote. It's a privilege to vote, and it is a responsibility to vote.
mhm.
I don't want anyone to think their vote don't matter. Your vote matters. Your vote matters so much that that there is a former president who is still very upset about your vote because it kicked him out. It made him a one-term president, and that's the
Exactly.
45. That's how much your vote mattered. Now, your vote mattered in 2016 when you decided not to vote because Hillary wasn't for you. And now you have a Supreme Court that don't represent most of us, because during that time, I believe that he was able to appoint what, 3 Supreme Court justices?
Yes,
Yeah,
he supports
3,
P three.
3.
Yep.
So that's how much your vote mattered. So if people could just kind of start understanding how your vote matters in your local districts, in your county, your school board. Keisha Benson, countywide school board, number 3. That's the district, countywide. If you live in Pinellas County, you make sure that hit that you hit that that
Yep.
vote for Keisha Benson. Otherwise, you're gonna have a QAnon conspiracy loving person that has decided that every textbook that's written by somebody of color is not appropriate for your child to read. That's
Exactly.
what's that's who she's up against. That
Yep.
that person.
Gonna be
So
teaching racism.
yes, yes. So enthusiastic, the problem I'm having, I'm not feeling the enthusiasm. And I know we go through this because when it's not a presidential uh race or election season, then most people feel like they can just sit at home. It's been proven time and time again, especially in these last 8 years, that you have to get out there and vote every time the door opens. Each election cycle. If they got to vote for dog catcher, and here in Florida, well, we vote for everything.
Yes.
And we also need to vote out a governor who decides to overturn the will of the people. And
Exactly.
DeSantis has been doing that on a regular. So we need to vote out a governor that overturns the will of the people. We need to get them out. Now, I've said that. So enthusiastic, I need for y'all to get some enthusiasm in your bones. If you got to play your favorite tune and get to dancing, I'm going to vote today.
Exactly.
I'm gonna,
This state of Florida, yes, I won't be enthusiastic about voting because there's too many crooked people
Yes,
want to
yes,
get in office and stay in office, and they got to go.
yes. So before we go, ladies, and I appreciate having you all here so much. It's been a wonderful conversation. I know we could go on and on and on about this, but Sharon, I did see one of the dogs trying to sneak out. I think that's Gizmo. So
You
I
know
know
he's the troublemaker. I'm gonna vote him out the house.
vote him
Can
off the
I,
island, right?
can I address Rachel?
Yeah, I wanna bring this up. Rachel wants to know, Miss Rebecca and Sarah and Sharon, what are your thoughts on Kanye West talking about White Lives Matter and all these other outrageous comments he's been saying? Well, as of sometime this afternoon, Kanye has been kicked off of Forbes billionaire list. He is now only a millionaire. Now, do I feel bad for him only being a millionaire?
No.
Absolutely not, because I would be happy to be a millionaire. But perhaps for him, it's a pretty huge thing. And especially this whole thing since he had said Adidas, in his words, he said it, Adidas can't get rid of me. And Adidas did what this afternoon? Adidas
Got rid of it.
revoked that partnership and contract. So I think not much at all about Kanye West talking about White Lives Matter, to be honest with you. I think, I try to separate the Kanye who has a mental health disability. I try to separate that from the Kanye that gets out in public and makes these weird statements and try to bring attention to himself. I've never been a big Kanye fan, so I have to be honest and share that with you. From Jesus Walks, from those days, I was not a Kanye fan, to him doing all the gospel music and showing up at churches and capitalizing off of churches and things like that. I've never been a Kanye fan. So for some of you that love his music and think he's a music genius, that's fine. But so when Kanye West says White Lives Matter, it don't phase me one way or another, to be honest with you, because I realize who he is who he is. You know, the fact that he can't really say Black Lives Matter, that's more important to me than him saying White Lives Matter. The fact that, he hangs around folks that don't like his own people. And so that's that internalized racism that we often see of Black folks that identify more with white culture and white people than they do their own Black culture and Black people, except for when it's convenient for them. Clarence Thomas, Kanye West, Candace Owens, those sort of people of the world. So Rachel, yeah, he's outrageous. But I'm going to stop there and let Sarah take it, and then Sharon, you can answer this. Sarah, go ahead.
There's one saying I have that applies to Kanye and Herschel Walker and all the rest of them. Candace Owens, all skin ain't kin.
Mm-hmm.
And they run around with these shirts and the Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter. They just don't want a Black person to have nothing for themselves. If Black lives didn't matter, there wouldn't be no white lives.
Mm-hmm.
Because they would have probably killed their own self if they didn't have us here building up this country as slaves. So, that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. Karen, we're going to get to your comment before we go also, Karen, because you raised something very important about your own status with being a former felon and voting. So we're going to get to you, but before we do, I want Sharon to answer this question. What say you?
I say that he is a person with mental health challenges that just happens to have a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that's all it is. If he were a regular person with his same mental health issues, we just wouldn't hear it. He would be on the corner shouting that noise, and that's the person you walk by, you keep your head straight, don't make eye contact. Mm-hmm. But because he has put anything into what he's saying. I don't know how much he's putting. I don't know where he is mentally, if he even knows what he's saying. Because I really think that his issue is mental health related, and his compulsions and his outbursts and all that stuff. I think it's something else that's going on. I don't really know so much that he really is trying to push an agenda or not. I think it's more just he just has no impulse control, and there's other stuff going on. So, he doesn't really hit my radar. It's just, that crazy person screaming over there again. As a human being, I hope that he gets some help. I really do. Yeah. But other than that, I don't pay him any mind.
Well, Sharon Esquire, you just gave him a defense, and you've also helped him be able to become a billionaire and hit the Forbes list again, because at some point he'll just say, I was going through a crisis, a mental health crisis, and you know what? People connect with him and partner with him again, because then they'll make a
statement. It wouldn't be me. That's their fault.
No,
I'm not messing with the crazy person again. No. Well, just because I'm saying no, just because
you have just
that you have a problem doesn't mean that I'm excusing you.
I'm just saying, if Kanye is watching,
and Kanye can cut me a check.
I was going to say, he might owe you some.
And then I'm going to donate it to Black Lives Matter. How about that?
Yeah. So Rachel said, thank you, Miss Rebecca and Sarah and Sharon, for sharing your views on Kanye West. You all brought up some good points about Kanye. Yeah, I think that he can easily become a distraction to what's important right now.
That's what it is.
We can get caught up on this Kanye thing, and I always feel this way. Folks that are millionaires and billionaires and all those things, they're not putting any food on my table. They're not helping to, push Bridge and the work of Bridge, building reconciliation, inclusion, diversity, and gender equity. They're not helping push Bridge to the forefront. So I don't have a lot of time to be concerned about Kanye when there is so much real work for us to be doing right now. I think it's worth a conversation that we need to have amongst ourselves, but I don't think we need to dwell there for too long, because if we dwell there for too long, then that means that we are not dealing with some of these things that we need to start changing. We probably won't be able to change Kanye. No, that's all it is to it. We can't change Candace Owens of the world, the Herschel Walkers, the Clarence Thomas, yeah. So, but what we can do is start looking at what we can change and what our agency is over our vote and policies and things that impact our community. Okay. Karen says, I've already voted, but I have a slight concern because I'm a former felon, and I'm praying they don't come for me because I've been voting since they restored my rights. You see what this whole thing that DeSantis did with arresting he did that to make sure that he put the fear of God in folks that are now eligible to vote. Exactly. Just 20 people. Now, there has already been a couple of folks that have been acquitted because, one, they didn't have a right to arrest them anyway. They got a voter's registration card from the state of Florida,
exactly.
So, and some of them signed up even at the Department of Motor Vehicles here in Florida, which is at Florida has most of them are in tax collector offices is what they call them. So they're government agencies and things that they have to, you go in and you get your driver's license. And one of the things they'll ask you is, are you registered to vote? Would you like to register to vote? Well, of course, that person, the customer service person, don't know if you're eligible or not, but they do ask. And after they ask, then it's up to the state of Florida then, when they're issuing that card, to know whether you're eligible to vote or not. Exactly. They sent everybody that voted had a voter's registration card with the seal on it. So, Karen, my understanding of the law that they have reframed and we reworked is if you're not a sex offender or if you have not murdered anyone, then you are eligible to vote. Now, that's my understanding of the law as they have changed it. And if your fines are paid, because your fines have to be paid also. If you have any fines, then those have to be paid as well. You should be eligible to vote without any issue. I would suggest that you follow up by reading the law just because, or that amendment, just because we have a governor who decides who he don't like on any given day. I'm glad that he did not scare you into not voting, because you said you've already early voted. So I'm glad that he did not scare you into not voting. And I'm proud of your courage and thank you for accepting your right, privilege, and responsibility, contrary to what the governor would hope you would do, which is to acquiesce to his will and go home and decide that no, I'm not
get
gonna
scared.
vote. Yeah. So
I was scared to
well,
go vote.
ladies, do you have any closing comments?
I did have one, but I forgot it.
Okay. Well, they say if it was good, it'll come back to you. Okay.
Yes.
Sharon, do you have any closing comments?
I guess I would just say to stay vigilant. Continue to absorb all the information you can from various sources, because I think that's another problem that we're having in this country. People are lazy and less than smart, and just kind of believe anything that people tell them because they look like them and they make it seem like they're on their side, when if you would dig a little deeper, you would find out that they're not really for you. They want your vote, but when it comes to what the agenda that they're pushing, their agenda is not going to benefit you. So all this voting along like tribal lines, we really need to get away from that and start looking at what is the benefit to you and your family, you and your community. Hold these candidates accountable to meeting those needs instead of following behind them because they want to make you feel like you're one of them. Especially when a lot of these people are not your average person, in the sense that they come from money. They come from a certain background that most people don't come from. So, it's not to say that they can't represent your needs, but a lot of times they're not. They're saying that they are, but it's more about other things. And it's about your vote. And it's because your vote is important, right? That's why we have all this voter suppression activity going on, because, rather than play the game right, rather than bringing policies that are going to help the majority of the people, I'm going to switch it up so you can't vote for me or vote against me. So, just stay vigilant, educate yourself as best as you can, have conversations with different people about things, and be ready to vote. And then once you vote, keep these people's feet to the fire about what they promised you they would do, because they come out and they say, we're going to do all this for your community. Okay, so show me. Let's see it. But that requires us to do our part.
I like that, Sharon. I love especially that you said, we can't just always vote along our party lines, because the truth be told, there are people or even people that look like us. Everybody that looks like you don't necessarily represent. They don't necessarily represent what your need is, what your community need is, what your
Mhm.
household need is. They don't even, their belief systems don't even align with yours. I mean, come on now. You would have to believe that it's okay to hold a gun to a woman's head, or, to beat your children, or not take care of your children, and all of that, to, vote for Herschel Walker. That's who he is. And
Mhm.
so even if he was running as a Democrat, I couldn't vote for him. I
Mhm.
couldn't, because who he is don't align with what I believe a person that's in public service should be or do, especially when they're unrepentant about it. Now, it
Mhm.
would be different if he came out and said, yeah, I was really a messed up person and I've done some horrible things. And since that time, look what I've been doing to get my life together, my family life together. I'm involved in my children's life. I'm making a difference. All those things. He can't show any of that.
Mhm.
He's not doing any of those things, because who he was is who he still is.
Mhm.
So I couldn't vote for a person like that, regardless of his color. For women, that we had some great women on the Hillsborough County ballot. We really did. Now, but there are some women that I can't vote for her.
Mhm.
She don't believe I have a right to bodily autonomy.
That's right.
We may agree on a whole bunch of other stuff, but that one right there is important to me. So I could not vote for her. I have to vote for a candidate who believes that I do have a right to my body. Because, like I said, for me, that issue goes deeper. Um, so, ladies, let me get off of here before I start running my mouth. I'm going to close with these last two comments. Karen said this was a great conversation. Thank you all for your helpful feedback and answers. You're welcome, Karen. And Rachel said, I'm glad that Miss Rebecca, you, Sarah, and Sharon had this important talk about voting. It definitely was a great conversation. I will definitely be voting. I want to see positive change. Thank you, Rachel. That's one of our content experts in our Tuesday Together Talk private group. Thank you, Rachel, for all you do. She be bringing some interesting articles. And Rachel, I did not forget about that article. I know you want to talk about it. We're going to have to talk about this article that Rachel brought to our attention, which is one about racism being considered a mental health uh, disability or mental health issue or something individually, though. So yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that one.
That's a good one. That's a good
So
one.
with all that's been said and done, thank you so much to the Tuesday Together Talk audience for tuning in this evening. Y'all, I'll be missing y'all so much. I, I'm trying to find a rhythm again. Um, and I still haven't found one because I have several different things going on right now. But just know that I'm at least going to try to see y'all at least once a month till we can get back to at least once a week, once every other week or something. I would love to have a more consistent schedule, but right now there's just some things in my life that uh just some variables and I'm juggling. But please be patient with me. I know it's been I've been saying that now for just about a year. Continue to be patient with me.
That's
Mhm.
right.
God is not through with me yet. When he gets through with me, I shall come forth as pure gold. Ah, so
Mhm.
Sharon and Sarah, thank you so much. God bless you all for contributing to this very important conversation. I am going to ask you all to stay with me for a few minutes in the virtual studio as we get ready to do our outtake. I'm Reverend Rebecca Burrow, founder and CEO of Building Reconciliation, Inclusion, Diversity, and Gender Equity. You can always find us at www.reconciliationandequity.com. Y'all check out Bridge. Y'all help us spread the word and help us create some equity and inclusion in this world through the principle of reconciliation. Okay, we need you to help bridge. Okay. Also, you can all follow us on Facebook at Reconciliation and Equity, Instagram and YouTube also at Reconciliation and Equity. Like, share, subscribe, all of that to our YouTube channel. Make sure you spread the word that we got some really good content on our Tuesday Together Talk YouTube channel. Make sure that you share it with others. Sarah and
Yes.
Sharon, I'll see you all again in the Tuesday Together Talk studio, but y'all hang on as we get ready to get out of here. All right. Now, we get ready to do our outtake. So here we go. Here we go.